Welcome back to Juice's Arthropods. My name is Juice, and today we're going to talk about some challenges and pros, cons, and care guide for slings or spiderlings. Are you worried about your slings care? Well, Juice here is ready to help you. All jokes aside, let's talk about it. So, one of the concerns I always get asked about is I sell a lot of spiderlings or slings, which we will continue to say for the rest of this video because that's too long of a word. And so a lot of people they want a tarantula, but they're just genuinely worried about slings because they're just so small. So what I want to do is I want to give an overarching care guide for slings, okay? Now I need to put this disclaimer out there. There is over 1,000 different species of tarantula and 150 different genera, okay? So care for each one of these is unique to the species. However, there's a lot of commonality that if you just do these basic things, your sling is going to be totally fine. So let's talk about it. So the largest or number one concern that most people broach when they're talking to me is, Juice, what the hell am I going to feed these guys? Great question, person that I made up. You're going to feed them dead stuff. Yeah. You ready to crush the head of some crickets, mealworms, superworms, dubia roaches? Disclaimer, do not crush the heads of dubia roaches. Their brains are not in their heads. It's just terrible for everybody. I've done this. It's horrible. So you have to feed slings dead stuff when they're first born. If they're a juvenile, you don't have to do this. If they're past L3, you don't have to do this. But when you're getting them and they're, say, real tiny, like we're talking this big, you do. So first thing is first. Did you already buy this sling? Crap, you did. All right. Do you have a vendor that can supply you tiny crickets, fruit flies, or baby dubia roaches? Did you say no to this? Okay, you really should have thought of that before you bought this sling. It's okay. I can help you. I can walk you through this. Can you take ad nauseum, kill the things that you would feed the bigger stuff, and then leave it dead in the cage? Now, you got to chop it up because it can't be bigger than the actual tarantula, okay? You don't like doing that? I don't care. You have no other choices, so you have to do that. Did you think ahead and found a vendor that could sell stuff? Perfect. You can take tiny baby crickets and you can ethically kill them by putting them in the freezer. Now, just as a heads up, you got to put them in the freezer for about 2 days or they won't freeze to death. So you still need to crush their heads. I know. Killing them with crushing the heads, there's really not much you can do. But if they're frozen, they're already dead. The problem is that they will dethaw and they will actually come back to life. So put them in the freezer, crush the little heads. All right, you're done feeling like a psychopath. You've done that part. Now drop it in there. Now mist their cage and then walk away. That's it. That's all you have to do to feed a sling. It's the easiest thing on the planet. Do you really like how cool the M. balfouris are? Guess what you're going to have to do if you have an M. balfouri? And they got to be adult-sized bugs. So my point is, before you buy a sling, please find a vendor you can trust that sells actual, feeders. Dubia roaches work. I don't personally do it because slings are just naturally more skittish and the dubias will go into the dirt. I prefer crickets. I will have an entire different video on why crickets are totally fine and people are just being ridiculous when it comes to parasites. Very minimal problem with crickets. So feed them crickets, feed them mealworms if you have to, feed them cut up superworms. Any of these are options, but they are obligate scavengers when they are first born. If they are larger than, I would say, an inch, you don't have to do this anymore. Just get them anything that's honestly the size of their abdomen, and you'll be totally fine. You don't have to worry about these creatures. They're 140 million years since they last evolved, and they're not changing anytime soon. You'll be totally fine. Before we get to care, which is the number 2 concern, which is, what do I put them in? How do I store them? This is a very, very important part to this video, okay? If you watch nothing else, stay till the end of this piece. Leave them alone. Okay, you bought your fancy tarantula and you're really proud of it and you're super excited and you love it so much and you would die if it died. Then leave it alone. Did it just close the door up to its burrow? Don't touch it. Did it take a month before it came out? 6 months before it came out? Doesn't matter. Don't touch it. Their metabolism is kind of like if they're not doing anything, they're not using anything. They are very motion activated. So if they're not eating, or I'm sorry, if they're not running or moving, they're pretty much not using any energy. There have been times where people have lost tarantulas in their house, and a year later they found it extremely malnourished, but still alive. These guys, I've had some for 6 months bury themselves, come up totally fine. You do not need to worry about them. They haven't evolved in 140 million years. Your worrying about them is not helping their cause. If they've burrowed, if they're anything where you just can't see them, they're 99.9% of the time totally fine. Or they're dead. That doesn't help you. So do not unbury these guys. Unless you're rehousing them, just mess with them as little as possible. Drop some food in there. If the food vanishes, guess what? They're eating. The food doesn't vanish, leave them alone for a couple more months and wait until a little opening happens and then drop food in there. Miss their cage frequently and you'll be totally fine. Water is all that matters, because what happens sometimes, and you'll see this in a second more, you see this little hole in the side? They're gonna just basically freeze up the top. There's no way for me to get anything in there. And they're going to do that. They're going to put that little, close up the top here. They're going to be in this little spot here. And they're there because the humidity is right. The temperature is right. They're just having a great old time. And they want you to go away. So oblige them. Juice, I don't know what to put these slings in, you ask, to disembodied voice coming from somewhere else. Totally understand. That is a serious concern. There is the more expensive way of doing things, and then there is the cheaper way of doing things. If this is your first sling, I will leave you to do whatever. You can go to any place that has plastics, and you can buy what's called an AMAC box. Are you from the UK or someone else? I am so sorry. This is an American thing. Like, you can buy them, but they're exorbitantly expensive. But I don't want to hear it. You guys can have phasmids and everything else, which is way awesome. So you can just suck it up and find some plastic container. You can even use like old cheese ball containers. It literally does not matter. Buy something cheap. Drill a little ventilation hole, right? See this? This is a little $1 vent that I bought from Vent Masters LLC. I drilled little holes in the side of it. I made sure that the soil was to the level it needs, obviously, because I had to put this one together in a rush because I got a bunch of tarantulas and I needed to do something. So this one, not ideal. My point is, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just need to put it in something. Or you can go a little bit crazier and you can buy some cages. And in fact, in January, I'm going to be having my own cages, like this one here, where you can have a nice little ventilation here, has a little top. This one has an inlay, so I can open that up there. There's a T. Celadonia sitting right inside, no issues. And then I can close it. See how that works? It's super nice, super easy, super compact. So for slings, something like this is perfect. Just make sure that you adjust the soil range to wherever it needs to be. You can do some of the sliding. I mean, you got the super fancy cages like these as well, where you can, open them up from the top. You can slide them as, oh, this is also one of my cages. That's right. Anyways, you could do anything. It could be super easy. It doesn't have to be fancy. My point is, something this size or this size, it doesn't matter. Because you know what? They don't care they're spiders. It's whatever you want to put them in. Pro number 1. So we're going to talk about the pros now. Did I tell you there's a lot of pros? Because there's like 7 of them. Pro number 1. These are so cute. Have you seen a spiderling? Okay. All right. Calm down, Juice. I get it. You're excited. They're so cute. All right, full-size tarantulas are dope. Don't get me wrong. They look awesome, no matter what the species. The dumbest looking species, Nandutropepi, hands down. Google it. They might look dumb as adults. They're still dumb as slings, but they're still so cute. The meanest looking spiders on the planet have the cutest freaking babies. Do you like huntsman spiders? Have you seen a huntsman sling? It's so freaking cute. So if you love cute, spiderlings for days, man. Number 2, we're talking about cheap. You know what gets more expensive the older it gets? Tarantulas. Adults are sometimes $1,000, especially if they're a female. And I get it. It's a crapshoot whether it's a male or a female when they're super small. And I know everybody wants a female. I want a female. They live so long. But you know what males do? They don't live as long. They still live like 4 to 7 years, depending on species. And they're so fun. They just walk around. You see them all the time. It's a great time. You should definitely get a sling. And also, back to the thing about cheap, slings will cost anywhere between like $6 to like $300, depending on the species. But I promise you, that $6 tarantula, when it's a juvenile, is going to be $50+ and $100 as an adult. So the longer you wait, you actually will pay more money. So when you get a juvenile or a full adult before, instead of a sling, because, well, I'm worried about it. Well, what if I told you you could get 5 slings for the price of 1 adult? Isn't it worth it? Because then you're definitely going to get a male or a female, depending on what you want. So cheap, definitely. But Juice, if I get a full-size tarantula, I'll be scared. I get it. That's why you should get a sling, because slings have to molt. And you can adjust the size variation. You can adjust the personalities between each molts. You will sometimes have them go into a hole for 6 months and come out 3 times bigger, but they're not going to come out a full-size tarantula. Sometimes they do that. My point is, you can adjust. So you don't just go from, say, an OBT sling to a full-grown OBT. It's a lot different. You want to adjust to old worlds? Trust me, get a sling. Because then, you'll know what fast means. Because if you think that it's a sling in its old world, that it'll be slow, it's not. It's not at all. It's still lightning fast. I have watched old world tarantula slings vanish before my very eyes. They move so quickly. And that's good because it allowed me to adjust to when they were adults, and they did the same thing. You know what's scarier than a sling vanishing into your house? A full grown-ass adult tarantula. So you definitely want to adjust for size variation. And it also just genuinely gets you more used to the species. You'll understand how they react. There are different personalities for individual tarantulas, but there are some common characteristics by species that you will find really get defined. For instance, everybody talks about GBBs being an amazing tarantula. They are. As slings, as adult females, they're the meanest damn tarantula on the planet. So buy a sling, adjust to the tarantula's size. You want to get an old world tarantula? Guess what? Get a sling. Got less venom. Bite you? Might hurt a lot. You might need to go to the hospital, but you're definitely going to have to with some of them if you get bit by, say, a P. metallica and it's a full-grown adult. So definitely get a sling if you would like to, once again, adjust to the speed, adjust to the demeanor, and you really, it also helps you, like, as they're slings, you can just move them into, like, 1 or 2 cages, and so that way you're not having to rehouse a full-grown adult. Another one, full lifespan. Everybody wants female tarantulas, but then everyone wants adults, and that, to me, is stupid, because some species aren't adults for 4 or 5 years. So by the time you're getting an adult tarantula, it's already 5. So of that 20 years, you only got 15 years left, which I realize is still a tremendous amount of time. But, like, listen to that. That doesn't make sense to me, as far as I'm saying. So if you want to be able to see them grow through the entire thing, which is to the next pro, they have different colors. Grammostolepulchras are brown for a long time before they become velvety black. You got Carabina versicolor. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blue coloration, which you can see right here, whereas they change completely when they're adults. Pamphobedius machala. Dude, you're talking about a tarantula that looks like a pumpkin patch, then bam, you're looking at something that's purple? Crazy! It's incredible the color changes that go from sling to adult. So it's very, very important that you get a sling. So in conclusion, do you want a tarantula that you get to live its entire lifespan with? You get to adjust to the color changes and see them just grow as beautiful as they are into these big, just burly creatures. Do you want them to see all their flaws and all their characteristics and really understand the uniqueness of each species? Do you want something that's sometimes 10 times cheaper than it is as an adult? And more importantly, do you want to make sure that you get to love this creature for its entire lifespan? Then buy a sling. If you have concerns, reach out to people like myself or the person you bought them from. If they're not willing to help you after they made a sale, then should you continue buying from them? And keep in mind, I sell tarantula slings now. Now, I'm not starting my online sales again until January because shipping and all of that nightmare. But when it comes back, reach out to me, DM me. If you want to research with me, I will help you. And even if I don't have it, I will find trusted people near you who will help you get what you're looking for, and we will tell you the pros and cons. I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to people out of a tarantula that was their dream tarantula after I told them all of the problems that they're going to have with that particular species, and they thanked me for it. And then ultimately the vendor that I sent them to thanked me for it as well. We're in this together, guys. But never, ever, ever look past a sling as a potential pet, because I promise you, if you want a tarantula, a sling is just as easy as an adult, in my opinion. So until next time, Arthro people, stay safe, stay educated, and most of all, stay classy.